Sure. Yes.
Mhm.
I don't know how to use it either, but we can try to figure it out. How? Oh, it went great. Yes, it went really nice. I was very happy. I'm gonna have another session tomorrow morning, but yeah, it went well.
Hi, John.
Are you hit for today, Sandrine?
What?
Are you hit for today?
Yes, I think so.
We've been struggling with how to
I know. Mhm. Yeah, that's what Janet started doing. But then we had now new instructors, and they are it's so we have. Yes, that's what we did. That's what we did. Yeah,
you
yeah,
presented, but they don't want to
yeah. That's what we are doing so far.
Okay, that's great. Hello.
Here you go. You should be able to hook this
glad to
clip
hear
into
that.
wherever you want.
Yeah.
Hello,
Are you our fearless leader today?
I am.
Okay.
Will you be talking?
Yeah, I'm
You
one
are.
of the speakers, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I did.
You noticed too, Mathilde. Yes.
You know what? I actually, before I had my hair like this, I had my head shaved all the way around right here, and so I had extensions that covered up. So I actually didn't cut my hair. I just took all my
Remove
extensions
what?
out.
Oh, it was well done because I didn't think it was
Yeah,
not your.
my stylist did a great job with it. She was great.
You need to give me her name. It's like pretty impressive.
But anyway,
Okay.
Sandrine,
Yeah. Where
with
should I?
that, so it's already on.
Okay.
If you would like, you can keep it on the whole service, and I can just control the mute back there and turn it on and off for you. Otherwise, there's a button on the top that
Yeah.
you can click, and that will also mute
What
it.
do you think is the easiest?
It's all up to what you're comfortable with. I'm fine with
Can.
either way. Right here, if you like mute it, so if you click that,
Oh, do
I
you hear?
think I think it shows. Did it mute? No. There we go. See how it has like the little mute symbol? So that means it's off. Then you click
But it doesn't seem like it's.
it is coming through.
Oh,
It's
it is?
just you have to be.
Do
It
I
seems
need
like you have to be pretty close to it.
close
So
to it?
maybe if you
Okay.
could keep it just a little
Higher.
If not, I can.
Can you hear me? I feel like it's.
Let me grab
Can
the
you
other
hear
one.
me? Can you hear me?
Okay. Oh, un peu nerveuse. So, do we go with this one?
I think you can hear me. Hear me?
This one might pick up a little farther away if you prefer to
This one?
switch to this one. She knows.
Here you go.
All right, I'll take that from you just a minute. All right. This works the exact same way.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. Yeah, that one I can do like
I can already. Yeah.
this.
I'm just gonna close it for now. Can you get me? No, you stop. Matty. Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me well? Yes? Welcome. My name is Sandrine Pilaz, and I will be the service coordinator for today. Welcome to All Souls, an open-minded community of compassionate thinkers and doers. Our congregation and our mission is to seek truth, practice love, and celebrate life. Whether you are joining us for the first time or you've been a member for a long time, you are welcome here. Whatever faith you have known or not known, or whatever your heritage, your race, your gender, your sexual orientation, you are welcome here. Before we get started, I want to thank everybody that made this service possible today, with Carol for the gift of music that she's bringing, Jessie Lee, who is doing the sound, and all the worship team service that is doing an amazing job putting those services together. Before we get started, do we have any announcements? Do you want to come? Yeah, come here.
Good morning, I'm Kevin Kolb. It's a couple of bookish announcements today. One is a message from Bob Rakota regarding our book group, which the meeting last week was canceled, actually postponed. It has been rescheduled now to this Thursday at 7 p.m. at the Beetle West Apartments, the Beetle West Apartment Community Room, rather, at 900 East 14th Street. So that will be 7 o'clock Thursday. And also, I was going to note, we have a free little library, and I see that somebody donated a whole bunch of Goosebumps and R.L. Stine and Animorph books and such as that for like the late grade school through even high school age readers. So be sure to check out the Frida Library. And in fact, there's so many books that I had to move some to the office. So if you don't like what's there, but you're a big fan, ask to look what's in the office. So, thank you much.
Lots of announcements today.
So I just got a postcard in the mail from the Shabbat Jewish Center of South Dakota, and there's going to be a speaker of Survival and Triumph Through Nazi Concentration Camps by a gentleman named Joseph Alexander. He's 101 years old, I believe. And it's going to be Wednesday, October 18th at 7 p.m. at the Denny Sanford Premier Center, and it's $20. And you can find out more information at the jewishsd.org/Holocaust website.
Thank you, Liz.
You're welcome.
Good morning, I'm Eric. In the order of service today, you'll find a piece of paper that says, are you interested in Unitarian Universalism or becoming a member of All Souls Church? Well, in the back room, at the back of the sanctuary, the library, after the service today, I'll have a coffee pot and some cups in there. Come on back, join us for, about a 1 hour, 45 minutes to an hour on the history of Unitarian Universalism or what it takes to become a member of All Souls Church. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. John?
Good morning, I'm John Cunningham, the president of All Souls, and I want to make a kind of a plea. The All Souls runs by teams. We have a team for everything, and they do all the work of keeping the church going. And I have a need for a couple of teams, the membership, not the membership, the outreach team that does the things out in the community. We serve at the banquet, and we support the cultural, what is it, multicultural day?
Multicultural,
yeah. And things like that. And that team needs a leader right now, a chair, as does the fellowship team, the team that takes care of of increasing the camaraderie and fellowship within the congregation. We have some great members on those teams, but they would like a chair. If anybody would like to be a member of those teams or chair them, I'd sure like to know. Thank you much. That's my plea.
Thank you, John. I have a couple of announcements as well. Our minister, Alan, was contacted by the UU minister in Fargo, and they are inviting All Souls for joining them to visit the George Floyd Memorial in Minneapolis on Saturday, October 14th. There will be more details coming in the Wednesday email blast that if you want to sign up, just come to me at the end of the service and I will get your email and you will receive every Wednesday more information about what's going on with All Souls. And the other announcement is that there is a women circle happening this Friday, the September 29th at Tut Hill Park from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. If the weather is not good, we will meet here at All Souls. This circle is only for women or people who identify themselves as women, and it's a very safe space to just be and share whatever we have in our heart with other women. So I highly invite you to join if you feel like it. Carol, would you be ready for the prelude? Thank you. Thank you, Carol. Let the worship service begin with the lighting of the chalice. We have some words that goes along with in the Gray Hymnal Book, page 431. O spinner, weaver of all lives, your loom is love. May we who are gathered here be empowered by that love, to weave new patterns of truth and justice into a web of life that is strong, beautiful, and everlasting. Those words are from Barbara Wells. Now I invite you to rise as you are able for our first song, page 21 in the Grey Hymnal book. Wonderful. Now it is time for our first reading, page 536 from the Grey Hymnal. I will read the normal part, and I invite you to read the italicized one. Morning Poem by Mary Oliver. Every morning the world is created. And fasten themselves to the high branches, and the ponds appear like black cloth, of which are painted islands of summer lilies. And if your spirit carries within it the thorns that is heavier than lead, if it's all you can do to keep on trudging. Each pond with its blazing lilies and is a prayer heard and answered lavishly every morning. Now I invite all the children here to come over here, and it's time for the story for all ages. So good to see so many of you here. Hi. Hello. How is everybody? Good. Can someone tell me what we celebrated this week? Something, it wasn't really a birthday, but something, a first was happened this week. Do you know what it is?
We had a bonfire last night.
Oh.
The equinox is what we celebrated.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. We celebrated the first day of fall.
Yay!
What falls, like when you think about fall, what do you think about? What do you associate with fall? The leaves, the color of the leaves. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, that's fine. Well, this new season made me think that everything changes all the time. Would you like to stay in summer mode all the time?
No.
Have just one season? I think it would be boring, right? Yeah. So whether it's the season or thinking or our bodies, it's changing all the time. So today I have a story. It's a kind of a silly story about this squirrel named Errol. I chose this story because I associate squirrel with falls, with all the nuts, and I love seeing them running around. So let's get started. One day, Bob found a squirrel in his package of nuts. Yikes! Yelled Bob. Cracks! Squeaked the squirrel. Squirrels didn't usually talk, so Bob was sure that this one must be rather special. I'm Bob, said Bob. What's your name? I'm Errol, said Errol. Bob could only imagine how Errol has gotten inside the package of nuts in the first place. So he started thinking about maybe Errol fell from the tree and when the machine was trying to collect the nuts and just got into all the system until he went into the car, the truck, and then in the factory, and he ended up being in the cereal package. In the store. You must be hungry after all that, said Bob. So he made Errol a peanut butter sandwich, and another and another. I like peanut butter too, said Bob. Errol stuffed his face, spraying crumbs everywhere. Soon he was covered from head to tail in peanut butter. It must be very sticky. You need a bath, said Bob. But Errol didn't like water. It's got bubbles, said Bob, but Errol didn't like bubbles either. So Bob tried cleaning Errol with his mom's toothbrush. But Errol wasn't fond of that plan. He ran, jumped, and climbed it all over. Finally, Bob cornered him. A trail of dirty paw prints led Bob all the way to the top of Mom's favorite curtains, where Errol was swinging dangerously. Hey, Errol, here is a great climbing tree just outside, said Bob. Errol scrambled up the tree as quick as a flash. He sat at the top waiting for Bob. It's a very long way down, said Bob, trying not to sound scared. Oh no, I'm stuck, he wailed a few moments later. Luckily, Errol was there to help him climb down safely. Look at this mess. What have you been doing? Said Bob's mom. Errol did it, said Bob. Who is Errol? She asked. He's the talking squirrel I found in my package of nuts, Bob explained. There is no such thing as a talking... How do you do? Said Errol. Ah! Cried Bob's mom. Bob taught his mom everything. When she had calmed down, she said that Errol would have to be back home. No, back in the package, said Bob in dismay. No, back to, where you think?
Woods.
The woods.
In the nature.
Nature, yeah. Bob was sad that Errol was going home, even if he had gotten him into lots of trouble. He made Errol a triple mega peanut butter sandwich as a goodbye present. Goodbye, Errol, said Bob. And when his mom wasn't looking, he whispered, Come back and wait, and wait, and wait, oh, what? And visit me soon, sorry. Bye, Bob, said Errol. Errol's friends were extremely pleased to see him again. He taught them all about his adventures with his new friend, Bob. The next day, Bob had a chewy, crunchy monkey munchie for breakfast.
Monkey.
Can you guess what happened next?
Monkey. Monkey. Oh,
A monkey. Okay, what's for the story for today? We're going to send you downstairs with the song Go Now in Peace, and I hope you're going to have a wonderful time with Nejla and Izumi today. It is such a blessing to see so many children today going downstairs. It makes me very, very happy. We have one tradition here in this congregation that we found very hopeful, helpful, and one of my favorite time here in All Souls is that we like to share the ups and downs of our lives by the practice of taking a stone here from a bowl and holding it in your hand, warming it and expressing your thought, joy, concern, whatever you feel like sharing, and then placing the stone in the water so that the ripples of the water carry your joys and concern into the wider world. You don't have to be a member to do that practice. If you feel like just the willingness and to share, even if it's the first time you come, you are more than welcome. I'm going to start, and then I will invite you to come forward and do that if you want to. I'm taking this big stone. This week has been, I feel like there is a bulldozer that destroy all the foundations in my life, whether it's like with my family, at work, or I had this inner insight, I don't know how I can explain it, that I'm no longer willing to not feel that I matter, and that I need to take any decisions in my life based on that and not on others' needs, whatever it is. It's huge. I migrated from France 13 years ago. I have 4 kids. Wasn't allowed to work in the US for all that time. And so lots of parts of myself were kind of shut down. And I feel like now it's time to say no anymore to that and just start doing things that really light me up. So it's huge. It's a big, big week, and I wanted to celebrate that with you.
I'm Jennifer. I had a really good day with my sister and my mother, and I actually got my picture feel like home. I finally hung out my paintings.
Thank you, Jen.
Good morning, my name's Nelson, and I'm going to choose this morning to just express my appreciation and my thank you to Reverend Alan Sogstad and just what he's done for this church, what he means to this church. Since he's come here, I can remember when the church was without a pastor before he got here. I think it's fair to say the church was going through a time of struggle, and that's fine now and then. I think since he's come here, I think the difference he's made is palpable. I think he's really good in the pulpit. He's very informative and chooses his material well. And I think he's made a difference to the point where you can notice it on Sundays when he's not here. Humble and hardworking, I've always admired those traits in someone, and I think that is Reverend Sogstad. So, thank you.
Hi, I'm Steve, in case you didn't guess before. Got a couple joys and concerns. My wife and I celebrated our 32 wedding anniversary on Thursday. So either I'm doing something right or I'm too stubborn for my own good. And then on Saturday, the two of us participated in the Walk Against Darkness. This is Suicide Prevention and Week, or Awareness Month. I did some counting, and I know 9 different people who have committed suicide. I really don't want that number to increase. So this is going to be my little plug. You all matter. You matter. Yes, and you know, if you're struggling, reach out. If you see someone who's struggling, reach out to them. Thank you.
Good morning, I'm Gina, and a joy and a concern is my son and his wife are expecting their 3rd child, and will have a grand boy coming. However, her pregnancies have not been easy, and so she had to go in the hospital for monitoring. So just, and I might be heading out to Montana to be of help any way I can. But just keeping them in your heart for me. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Janet, and some of you might know I have major depressive disorder, and that's well controlled. But every fall I have the problem of seasonal affective disorder on top of it. And so for the last few weeks I've been kind of up and down and have waves of depression come. So if I seem a little off when you're talking to me, it might be one of those waves hitting. But I have a plan to deal with it, so hopefully all will be well. Usually is. And I do have a joy, in spite of going through that, I took a certification exam for work, and I passed it. So now I know all about risk adjustment coding, which you probably don't want to hear about. It has to do with Medicare.
Thank you, Janet.
Hi, I'm Scott. I've had a fascinating 6 weeks at work because they took away my authorizations to run my programs, so I haven't been able to actually work for 6 weeks. And so I've been taking all the extra advanced trainings that the business offers. And this last week I had some trainings about learning about the brain and how it functions and how people's strengths build. And I gotta tell you, it was fascinating. It was good enough to tell you that it was a real joy in my life.
Good morning. My name is Marcia, and this is a stone for the concern I have relating to my granddaughter and her dad.
Thank you, Marcia. I'm gonna use one last stone to for all the thoughts, joys, and concerns that we are keeping for ourselves. And now I invite you for a moment of silence to just reflect on what has been shared and or not shared. Thank you. Now it is time for a second song. I invite you to rise as you are able, and it's the song 100 in your Gray Hymnal book. I've got peace like a river.
I've got
Now it is time for a second reading, page 634 on the Gray Hymnal. It's called On Turning from Jack Rimmer. And again, I will invite you to read the italicized part. Now is the time for turning.
The leaves are beginning to turn from green to red and orange.
The birds are beginning to turn and are heading once more toward the south.
The animals are beginning to turn to store their food for the winter.
For leaves, birds, and animals, turning comes instinctively.
But for us, turning does not come so easily.
It takes an act of will for us to make a turn. It means breaking with old habits.
It means admitting that we have been wrong, and this is never easy.
It means losing faith. It means starting all over again. And this is always painful.
It means saying, I am sorry.
It means recognizing that we have the ability to change. These things are hard to do.
Unless we turn, we will be trapped forever in yesterday's ways.
God, help us to turn from callousness to sensitivity, from hostility to love, from pettiness to purpose, from envy to contentment, from carelessness to discipline, from fear to faith.
Turn us around, O God, and bring us back to you.
Revive our lives as at the beginning.
Turn us toward each other, and for in isolation there is no life.
Blessed be. Now it is my pleasure to invite the two speakers for today, Liz and Rick. Once a month, the congregation likes to ask one of the members to share how their thinking has evolved over the years. And so we are very grateful today to have two speakers sharing their life with us. So Liz, would you like to get started?
Can you hear me? That's something my dad would say. Okay, so my name is Liz Wolf, and I've only been here for about 6 months or so. And so I was kind of awed that they would ask me to speak, but here I am. So I thought I'd talk about my childhood, because that absolutely brings me here. So first, I was the tiebreaker. I was the seventh of 7 children, 3 boys and 3 girls. And our parents obviously were very faithful Catholics. My mother was, I don't know, 28 or 29 when she had me. And I remember turning 28 and thinking, oh my God. I mean, it's really almost too much to bear, to think about. She told me that she had 2, sometimes 3 children in diapers at a time where there were no disposable diapers. So she was dunking diapers in toilets for 11 years, essentially. So obviously, my mother and father had some very challenging time with all of those children being born so quickly in succession, and at the same time, my mother having very severe depression. I've always been in awe of how they survived. The pill became available in 1965, the year I was born, but antidepressants wouldn't be invented for several more years. It wasn't but years later that I asked my mother why a neighbor took care of me. And she told me she was getting electric shock therapy. So while I was being babysat. So even with all those difficulties and living in a time when so many norms were being challenged, you know, the late 60s, early 70s, my parents chose to take some very interesting paths. Well, they left the Catholic Church, thank God, because then there wouldn't be 42 of us and only 7, and started exploring their feelings towards organized religion and they surrounded themselves with a group of younger people, even though, I mean, they were relatively young, 30, 34, ish at that time. And friends who had also left the church, former priests, former nuns, with whom they could converse and discuss how they were changing in life. And they also started protesting the Vietnam War. Middle class, middle-aged hippies were my parents. My mom was a housewife, and my dad drove for John Morrell up in Fargo. We were the only house in Fargo, North Dakota that had a giant peace sign painted on the side of it in black. My father was also the last president in North Dakota of an organization called Clergy and Laymen, concerned for Vietnam, but also it's also called Clergy and Laity for a Peaceful Resolution. So we went to a lot of peace protests. He even built a coffin, full size, and in the coffin, he wrote on 3x5 cards the name of every North Dakotan who had died in the Korean and Vietnam conflict. And we would load that up in our van and take it to protests. And when it wasn't being used in protest, it was our coffee table. True story. So I remember waking up with our house filled with hippies and my dad in the kitchen making a big pot of oatmeal to feed them all. And when my parents needed a vacation, what did they do? They hitchhiked to New Jersey. I vividly remember all of us piling into our Ford Econoline van and leaving them on the side of the interstate with their cardboard sign. New Jersey. I have a picture of that. They left us all at home with a neighbor friend, Cynthia, and by the time they had gotten back, we had tie-dyed every single thing in our house. All the underwear, all the sheets, all the towels, everything that wasn't colored was tie-dyed. My dad's hankies. And of course, they soon traded in that Ford Econoline van for what? A VW, red VW bus, because it was hippie mode, you know. So in spite of that, and in spite of, being raised in Fargo, I never felt uncomfortable, nor was I made to feel uncomfortable for who my family was or our belief systems. And our neighbors seemed to accept us. Kids were invited to our house, so we weren't that scary. But there was only one time that I remember really being upset about this situation. So I was in junior high, and all my friends, of course, were going to catechism. I was free Wednesday nights. I wasn't going. And I remember having a discussion at Agassiz Junior High with some of my friends and learning for the first time that Jesus Christ had actually been a human being. Like, until then, I just thought the Bible was stories, and people went and hung out together on Sunday mornings, and that was the extent of my knowledge. And I was an easygoing kid, but man, I stomped home. And my dad was home from truck driving, and so they were both there, and I don't think my other siblings were there. But I remember just being furious. Like, how could you let me go out in this world and not know that? Like, that's an important thing to know. I thought, I read the newspaper every day, and knowledge was important. And so I think they were like, damn, we missed out on that one. But I, of course, forgave them. So I think, if I think back and about the only thing that, of course, we didn't have a Bible. So the only real dogma, I guess, that I listened to was an album called Free to Be You and Me by Marla Thomas, if anybody ever heard that. Have you? Yeah, it's such a great album. So that's really was kind of what I grew up with for dogma. So and I also, a couple other things happened. So I had a friend in high school who, once she learned how to drive, decided she no longer wanted to go to the Catholic Church. So she went to a later service, but she came to our house instead. So her mom and dad didn't know. So we were kind of a safe haven. And another thing that happened that affected me was my mom and dad. My mother worked at this store, an old department store in Fargo called Block 6. So it was an old department store that they had converted to all these stores. And there was a gal, my mom worked there at the plant store, so I was in and out there, and I made some other friends there, so we were always kind of hanging out. And there was a gal who had, one of the stores in the front was a card store, and so I would go in there and help her out or whatever. And she ended up showing up at our house, and she had pulled out all her eyebrows and her eyelashes because they found out she was a lesbian. And I thought, I was aghast, because if you ever see somebody without their eyebrows or eyelashes, it's terrifying, and to see that someone had done that to themselves because of the pain that they were going through. And I remember later telling a friend, I was so grateful that I learned. So someone had to first off explain to me what a lesbian was, and I remember telling a friend later, I was so grateful that I learned what a lesbian was before I learned what a Republican was. So just put me in a different set of footing. Oh, I'm done here. But one thing, so on my final note is, it's been a comfortable stretch for me to be a part of this church. Unitarian Universalism is an extension of what I was raised with. The appeal for me is being with like-minded people who are willing to challenge their beliefs, the desire for healthy relationships, to give back to the community, the preciousness of the democratic process, and peace. When I come here, I feel like I know you all, and I feel like I've come home.
I'm not going to say anything. That was good enough, wasn't it? What she did? Yeah, really. My name is Rick Noby, and when Alan called me and asked me if I wanted to speak about how my thinking has evolved, I gratefully accepted the opportunity, because that caused me to do thinking. What things have evolved for me? I asked him how much time I was going to get. He said, you can take a couple of hours. He said, but after 11 o'clock, everybody's going to leave. So I'm going to keep it as short as possible. As a matter of fact, we are now starting 7 minutes. I've got a little bit of a libertarian streak in me. I used to be a Republican, and I know the old style Republican, where we treated people decently and didn't point fingers and didn't cast blame and didn't mock and deride. That's the kind of Republican I remember. Anyway, this isn't about partisan politics, however. I was mayor of Sioux Falls from 1974 to 1984, commonly referred to as the golden years by me and a few other people. One of the things that a mayor gets to do is he gets to issue proclamations. And, you know, we would get people to come in proclaiming Model Railroad Week, or my parents are celebrating their 75th wedding anniversary. Would you do a proclamation for them? And we always agreed to do that kind of stuff. It was just kind of a fun part of the job, is celebrating. That's what a proclamation does, celebrating stuff. At least that's the general purpose. I was elected in 1974. Roe v. Wade was decided in April of 1973. By the time I was elected, some of the heat from that decision was starting to percolate in the country. And so I would get a request from the pro-life people if I would issue a proclamation. And I did. 2 weeks later, I get a call from some people whose opinion is different. And they asked me if I would issue a proclamation proclaiming choice or pro-abortion, whatever the language was back then, that had not really evolved as much as it has today. And I did. I succeeded, by doing that, I succeeded in irritating both sides, as you can well imagine. But I did it because, and I don't know why I had this insight. I was like 28 years old or whatever when we started doing this. It seemed to me that this topic is one that deserves plenty of public discussion and quiet reflection. And these days there seems to be very little quiet reflection and a whole bunch of public discussion. In my family, as far as I know, the issue of abortion has not been there. Miscarriages have happened, that kind of thing. So it has not hit me directly. Over the people that I know that have gone through the process for whatever their reasons were. One woman that I know, and she was very vocal here in Sioux Falls for years and years and years, I won't mention her name because I don't need to, but she regretted her decision. And she vocally told everybody that she regretted it, et cetera, and was extremely pro-life. Another female that I know went through the process and had zero regrets. And she thought that she was able to lead a better life because of going through that procedure. Two females, both white, by the way, both in their 20s. I've spent a lot of time on this. And I know that there are a lot of folks out there that are deeply rooted in life begins at conception. I understand intellectually that. I don't think medically it holds water, but I understand the religious or psychological part of it. I've come to the conclusion that each of you as individuals, particularly the females in here, I can't tell you what to do. I literally cannot tell you what to do. If you ask me, I can ask you some questions about what your situation is, what your feelings are, what kind of support you have, no matter which decision you make, but I can't tell you what to do. That's not my job. These days, as I said, we're divided on this. And medicine, since I started paying attention to it, and I'm sure all of you are very well aware of this, has changed drastically over the last several years. I do have a niece who was a preemie. She was born at 6 months. 50 years ago, if she'd been born at 6 months, she wouldn't have made it. And now, most of you are much more sophisticated in your knowledge on how preemies do and all the procedures that are involved. So medicine has moved forward in many, many ways. And yet, sometimes we don't seem to move with it very much. There are people out there that don't believe in medicine, period, taking medications. There are people out there that don't believe in surgeries for whatever reason. Some of those people actually get elected to office. And some of those people, we've got people practicing medicine without a license. Most of them are legislators because they are dictating the medical care that you can get or cannot get. We've all heard the horror stories about the 10-year-old from Ohio or the 7th grader, I think, from Texas, recent stories. And I remember when I was in college, there was the 2 or 3 girls would head off to Omaha for the weekend to have fun. Well, no, you found out later on one of them didn't go to have fun, and the girlfriends went along. That was in the 1960s. The bottom line for me is, I can't walk in your shoes. I don't want to walk in your shoes. I want to help you on your journey, but I don't want to tell you what your journey is. And if you don't have somebody to talk to about your situation that you trust and respect, you need to find that person or people, whether it's your minister, your parent, a neighbor, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, whatever it is. And through that process and through the medical care that hopefully you're going to get or are getting, you will reach a conclusion that works for you. I consider myself pro-life. I consider myself very pro-life. But I also believe that you have the right to choose your destiny and the destiny of what you may be carrying. And as much as I want healthy babies, I'm not going to tell you what you have to do about it. And to the woman who was talking here a little bit earlier about pregnancy, that the woman's in the hospital now, I pray that there's a successful conclusion to that. Godspeed.
Wow. Both of you are very inspiring. Thank you so much. I didn't think I would share that, but after what you said, Rick, I wanted to bring up that there is an upcoming program for teenagers from like 7th to 9th graders. It's called OWL, goes for Our All Lives, and it's a sexual education program that is like founded by the UU and the UCC Church. So it's embedded in your faith, but it's a very, welcoming, very supportive program for anyone, any kid that is struggling with their sexuality. And it's a very open-minded, like I cannot highly recommend that program enough. And so if you know any families, any kid that would be interested, there is a parent and student information meeting on Wednesday nights, and the class will start on beginning of October. I did the training with a couple of other members, and it's life-changing to me that having this safe space for young people to just discover their sexuality. So if you want more information, please reach out to me and come to see me after the service, and I will give you all the information you need. It's going to be at the First Congregation Church downtown, right across the Pavilion, Washington Pavilion Center, and it's from 7 to 8 p.m. But I will say more if you are interested. Before we keep going, we're going to start the offering. We also need money to keep the congregation running, and half of the collection we received today will go to a nonprofit organization, and the one we selected this week is the I forgot, the elementary school. Yes. Can you say it louder, Janet? Horseman Education. Yes. Thank you, Carol. Please join me in saying the words of to receive the offering. They are in your bulletin of service. We give these gifts freely. We receive these gifts gratefully. We dedicate these gifts to the work of our congregation, serving human wholeness, caring for our planet, upholding religious freedom, welcoming the stranger, loving one another. And now I invite you to raise as you're able for a final song, number 6 on your gray hymnal book, Just As Long As I Have Breath. To close the service, I will now extinguish the chalice. The chalice is extinguished, but the light goes with us out into the world. Thank you, Carol. Well, now I invite you for coffee and connection downstairs. We got a little over time today, so let's meet at 11:20 here for discussion if you feel like you want to stay longer. But for now, it's coffee and connection downstairs. Enjoy.